So what are the 8 phases of technological evolution? These are not just inventions, but the deeper stages civilizations move through as they gain more control over energy, information, life, and eventually reality itself. Music, most people think progress is random. A new tool appears and an industry shifts. But when you zoom out, a pattern emerges. In 1964, astronomer Nikolai Kardashev ranked civilians by how much energy they control. Type 1 controls a planet. Type 2 controls a star. Type 3 controls a galaxy. It tells us where a civilization could end music up, but it does not explain how it gets there. In this video, we're going to walk through the full sequence in order, starting with the foundations that built civilization and moving toward the outer limits music of what may be possible. By the end, you'll see exactly where we stand and what comes next. Phase 1, control of energy. Before civilization could think about stars or galaxies, it had to survive. For most of human history, energy came directly from muscle, wind, or flowing water. When the sun went down, activity slowed. When food ran short, population shrank. Basically, nature set the limits. Then fire changed that relationship. It extended the day. It made food safer. It offered warmth and protection. For the first time, humans could push back against darkness music instead of simply accepting it. That was the beginning. Agriculture came next. Stable food supplies allowed populations to grow. Settlements formed. Societies emerged. But the real acceleration happened much later. Coal-powered steam music engines, oil-fueled transportation, electricity turned night into infrastructure, factories no longer depended on daylight, cities could expand in every direction. One person, music supported by machines, could produce the output of hundreds. This is what it means to control energy. Not just using it, but amplifying human capability through it. And that climb has not stopped. In 2024, global energy demand grew by 2.2% faster than the average of the previous decade. Electricity demand rose even faster at 4.3%, and renewables accounted for 38% of new supply growth. At the same time, roughly 81% of the global energy system still relies on fossil fuels. Energy production accounts for about 23% of global emissions. So energy gave us power, scale, and comfort. It also introduced music complexity and consequences. And once societies become complex, power alone is not enough. You need coordination. Energy built the body of civilization. Now it needed a nervous system. Phase 2, control of information. If energy allowed civilization to expand physically, information allowed it to expand mentally. Writing was the first breakthrough. Memory no longer lived only in the brain. Knowledge could outlast the individual. Printing accelerated that process. Ideas moved across continents. Telegraphy collapsed distance. Music radio amplified voice. Computers digitized logic. Then the internet connected billions. Today, about 5.5 billion people are online. That represents roughly 68% of the world's population. Growth continues at about 3.4%, 4% year over year. Access, however, is uneven. In high-income countries, 93% of the people use the internet. In low-income countries, that number drops to 27%. Around 2.6 billion people remain offline. Still, the shift is undeniable. Information became cheap, transferable, and instant. Markets react in milliseconds. Messages spread globally in seconds. Knowledge compounds faster than at any previous point in history. Civilization effectively developed the planetary nervous system, but growth created a new bottleneck. The volume of information began to exceed our ability to process it. Data multiplied faster than human attention. Storage was not the issue. Interpretation was. Music machines could retrieve information perfectly. They could not understand it. So once again, expansion forced the next leap. If energy scaled muscle and information scaled memory, what scales judgment? That question defines the next phase. Music phase 3, creation of intelligence. Artificial intelligence shifts technology from passive tools to active systems. Instead of merely storing and retrieving data, machines began identifying patterns within it. They learned to generate text, recognize images, diagnose disease, and optimize complex systems. Adoption accelerated quickly. In 2024, 78% of organizations reported using AI, up from 55% the year before U.S. private AI investment reached $109.1 billion, nearly 12 times China's $9.3 billion. Generative AI startups attracted $33.9 billion globally. These numbers signal infrastructure forming, not experimentation. By 2023, the US FDA had approved 223 AI-enabled medical devices. In 2015, there were just 6. In transportation, Waymo was delivering roughly 150,000 autonomous rides per week. Intelligence became scalable. Decision-making, once limited by human cognition, could now be assisted or partially automated. Productivity increased. Entire industries reorganized around systems that could analyze and optimize at speeds humans could not match. And here the story deepens. Every previous phase expanded control over the external world. Energy shaped the environment. Information structured communication. Intelligence refines its systems. Once intelligence can optimize processes, it can also help redesign biology itself. And that is where the next phase begins. Phase 4, engineering biology. Once intelligence becomes scalable, something subtle happens. We stop only building smarter systems. We start asking whether we can improve the system that built those systems ourselves. For most of our history, biology was fixed. You inherited your DNA. You inherited your risks. Evolution worked slowly, blindly across generations. But now that intelligence can model, simulate, and predict at scale, it can turn inward. Gene editing technologies like CRISPR allow scientists to directly modify DNA. As of mid-2025, there are 36 approved gene therapies, 36 RNA-based therapies, and 71 non-genetically modified cell therapies worldwide. That is not experimental fringe science. That is regulated medicine. On December 8, 2023, the US FDA approved Casgevy, the first CRISPR gene editing therapy for sickle cell disease. It had the potential to help around 16,000 US patients aged 12 and older. That approval marked a shift. We are no longer limited to treating symptoms. We can begin correcting the code itself. Neural interfaces push this even further. Signals from the brain can be translated into digital commands. The boundary music between biology and computation grows thinner. Aging becomes something to slow. Disease becomes something to edit. Biology moves from fate to design. But even editable biology depends on physical limits. Cells are made of atoms, and atoms obey physics. So the next leap focuses not on life, but on matter. Phase 5, mastery of matter. Energy gave us power. Information gave us coordination. Intelligence gave us optimization. Biologists gave us redesign. Now we confront the raw substrate of it all, matter. For most of civilization, we extracted materials from the earth and reshaped them. Stone into tools, metal, into machines, silicone, into chips. But reshaping is different from engineering at the atomic level. Nanotechnology aims to build structures out of music by atom. Instead of refining bulk materials, we construct them with molecular precision. This is already becoming a major economic force. The global nanotechnology market was valued at $105.79 billion in 2025 and is projected to reach $398.41 billion by 2034. That is a compound annual growth of 15.7%. North America alone accounted for roughly 29.2% of the market in 2025. That growth reflects a shift in capability. When you can engineer matter at small scales, you can unlock dramatic changes at large scales. Stronger materials, lighter structures, more efficient electronics, highly targeted drug delivery. Scarcity begins to loosen its grip. But even mastery of matter does not eliminate the ultimate constraint, energy. Because no matter how perfectly engineered your materials are, they still require power. And the largest power source in our system is not buried underground. It is a star. Phase 6, stellar engineering. Every civilization eventually faces the same ceiling. How much energy can it access? In December 2022, The US National Ignition Facility achieved a breakthrough. It delivered 2.055 megajoule of laser energy into a fusion reaction and produced 3.15 megajoule of fusion output. For the first time, a controlled fusion experiment generated more energy than it consumed. That milestone did not light up cities, but it changed what's possible. The sun emits about 3.8 asterisk 1026 power joules of energy every second. That's more energy in 1 second than humanity uses in an entire year. A civilization capable of harnessing even a fraction of that output crosses into a new category. This is what the Kardashev scale calls type music too. With star-level energy, planetary climate systems could be stabilized. Massive computational networks could run without destabilizing ecosystems. Interplanetary expansion becomes realistic. Energy ceases to be the bottleneck, but something else remains. Even with vast power, you're still bound by physical law, gravity, quantum mechanics, relativity. To move further, you must understand and manipulate those rules. Phase 7, Mastery of Fundamental Physics. This stage, technological evolution turns toward the fabric of reality itself. Quantum computing represents one path. Instead of simulating nature using classical bits, it leverages the probabilistic behavior of particles directly. Physicists recently assembled a 6,100 neutral atom qubit array, the largest yet constructed. They maintained quantum superposition for about 13 seconds with 99.98% accuracy and demonstrated the ability to move atoms while preserving coherence. That might sound technical, but its meaning is simple. Music we are beginning to compute using the rules of reality rather than approximating them. If scalable quantum systems mature, they could transform material discovery, chemical simulation, and optimization problems that classical computers struggle to solve. Up to this point, engineering and physics begin to merge. Distance becomes less restrictive. Simulation becomes more precise. Constraints soften. Technology no longer just uses music nature. It negotiates with it. And beyond that lies the final horizon, Phase 8, Music Galactic Civilization. The Kardashev scale ends at Type 3, that harnesses the energy output music of its entire galaxy. The Milky Way stretches roughly 100,000 light years across and contains between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. More than 6,000 exoplanets have already been confirmed, with over 8,000 additional candidates awaiting verification. That is the playground of a Type 3 civilization. At that scale, intelligence may no longer be biological. Consciousness could be distributed across planetary or stellar scale computational systems. Civilization becomes infrastructure. The galaxy becomes... This is not our present, but it is a logical extension of the pattern. Each phase arises because the previous one creates complexity. Complexity creates constraints. Constraints force innovation. Energy led to information. Information led to intelligence. Intelligence leads to redesign. Redesign pushes toward matter, stars, and eventually the structure of reality itself. The Kardashev scale measures energy. The phases of technological evolution measure control. And we are still climbing. If you made it this far, let us know what you think in the comment section below. And if you're curious about how fast AI and research workflows are evolving behind the scenes, you can also check out Overseer OS in the description. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.